Hey there friends, it's Laurie. Today I'm sharing 4 different fall sunflower DIYs, and I made all for under $10 each. I used mostly Dollar Tree supplies, a recycled frame, and of course some things that I already had on hand. As always, I hope you have fun crafting with me, so let's get busy. Getting started, I'm using one of the 12-inch round wooden circles from the Dollar Tree. I removed the hanger, and you can paint yours any color. I'm painting mine with some black acrylic paint. My sign is dry, and you can always leave it as is, but I'm giving mine a bit of a rustic vibe, and I'm using a piece of sandpaper. I'm sanding around the outside edges just enough to have a bit of the wood show through. With that complete, I'm adding a different hanger onto my sign, and I'm using some of this farmhouse ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I twisted the end together tightly and then pushed it through the hanger hole, tying it in a double knot on the back. I decided how long I wanted my hanger to be, and after I cut my ribbon, I slipped the end through the hanger hole and double knotted that as well. I'm adding the word sunflower to my sign, and I'm using some wooden letters that I found at the Dollar Tree. I used the letters to spell sunflower and gave them a coat of bright yellow acrylic paint. I'm spelling the word sunflower in an angle on the top half of my sign. I added the first and the last letter on, and then figured out my spacing for the rest. I'm attaching the word to the sign using my E6000 and placing some on the back of each letter. To decorate my sign, I'm starting with 2 of the large orange burlap leaves, and these came from the Dollar Tree. There is a wire on the back of each, and they easily pulled off. I want them to be a colorful base on the bottom of my sign, and once I found their placement, I then attached them with my glue gun. I'm adding 4 sunflowers onto my sign, and I'm using 2 bunches from the Dollar Tree. 1 flower with orange accents, and 3 that are the classic yellow sunflowers. To be sure they sit flat on my sign, I'm snipping the stem off the back of each. Before I attach them, I'm finding their placement on my sign, and then once I'm happy with it, I'm hot gluing them into place. I want to give my sign a fall vibe, so I'm adding in some maple leaves. I found these at the Dollar Tree. I'm using 2 of the larger orange leaves and 6 of the small green leaves. I once again decided their placement and then used my hot glue gun to attach them. I made my sign with sunflowers, but you can always change up the lettering and the flowers and make one of these for every season. Now that I have everything glued into place, this pretty fall sunflower sign is ready to hang. I'm popping in to let you know that today I'm participating in my monthly friend group collab. It's being hosted by my sweet friend Liana from Liana DIY. And this month, our friend Corey is joining us from Crafted by Corey. Both women have amazing DIY channels, and you can check them out along with my other crafty friends by clicking on the playlist. I'll have that linked below in my description. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a thumbs up. And to all my returning friends, you know I am always so happy to see you. To make my fall sunflower gnome, I'm starting with one of the metal pencil cups, and you can find these in the stationery department at the Dollar Tree. I removed the tag, and I'm going to be covering mine with a woman's white sports sock. They come in a set, and I found these at the Dollar Tree. I'm only using one, and I'm sliding it over the bottom of the pencil cup and then pulling the ends tightly away from it. With that complete, I'm using my scissors and cutting about 3 to 4 inches of the excess sock. I'm placing it aside, and this will become the gnome's arms. To help hold the bottom of the sock in place, I'm adding a bit of hot glue around the edge and then just pushing it down. For the top of the gnome's head, I'm using a Dollar Tree styrofoam cone. I removed it from the package, and the bottom, it's just a little bit too large and overhangs the base. So using my thumb, I pressed around and just kind of made it a little bit smaller. It now fits perfectly on the top, and using my glue gun, I attached the two together. For the gnome's beard, I always like to try different things, so I'll be making his out of some Dollar Tree nautical rope. I have some random pieces of nautical rope left over from past projects, and I'm cutting 5 pieces at 12 inches each. To make the strands for my gnome's beard, I'm pulling my rope apart into individual pieces. Once I have it all pulled apart, I'm laying the individual pieces side by side. I'll be attaching them all together using a chenille stem or pipe cleaner. Mine came from the Dollar Tree, and you can use any color you'd like. I added a generous amount of hot glue in the center of the strands and then placed down my chenille stem. Now, moving quickly before the glue cools, I flipped one side of the rope onto the other. I made sure to use my finger protector to prevent myself from getting burned. When all of the strands were attached to the chenille stem, I then pushed them closer together from both sides. I'm attaching the beard to the base about 4 inches down from the top. Once I have it in place, I'm wrapping the chenille stems around and twisting them tightly on the back. With that in place, to make sure the beard doesn't move, I added on some hot glue. The beard, it's obviously in need of a trim, so I just used my scissors, trimmed up the sides, and kind of neatened it up. For my gnome's hat, I'm using a brown and white striped sock, and I picked this up at the Dollar Tree. I made sure the heel was on the back, and then I slid the sock over the gnome's head. The sock has an elastic end, and I pulled it over the beard about 2 inches or so. For the gnome's nose, I'm using a 1.5-inch wooden knob. I already had this on hand, but if you don't have something like this, you can always use one of the Dollar Tree table tennis balls. You can paint yours any color you'd like. I'm painting mine with some coral acrylic paint. Now that it's dry, I'm adding it onto my gnome, tucking it up under his hat. Then, to be sure it didn't slip out of place, I added on some hot glue. I placed some under the nose and on top of it, and then I attached both sides of the hat as well as the back. When I attached the sides and the back, I pulled them slightly downwards. I'm using some of the leftover rope strands and I'm making a mustache for my gnome. I cut 2 bunches at about 5 inches. I then tied the bunch in half with another strand of rope. I trimmed off the ends with my scissors and I hot glued it under the gnome's nose. With the mustache in place, I'm now gathering up the end of the gnome's hat. Once again, I'm using another strand of the rope and I'm tying it off in a knot. I snipped off the excess rope and you can leave the gnome's hat as is, but I'm going to be adding on a bow. I'm using some sunflower ribbon that I already had on hand. I think it came from Hobby Lobby, and I'm making a simple bow. To attach the bow, I placed a dot of hot glue onto the top of the hat where I had tied it off. To make the gnome's arms, I'm using the piece of sock that I had cut off earlier, and I'm turning it inside out. I'm then folding it in half and cutting down the center with my scissors. I have my 2 pieces, and on the right side of the sock, I'm adding some hot glue on the longest end and then folding it over. So when you look at it, the inside of the sock will be on the outside. After I made 2 of them, I then turned the arms inside out. I'm attaching the arms one on each side of the gnome, making sure that the 2 hands meet in the center of the gnome's beard. With both of the arms attached, I'm using my glue gun and attaching the 2 hands together. Before I add on the flowers, I'm giving my gnome some feet, and I'm using a wooden heart that I had on hand. They do sell wooden hearts at the Dollar Tree, and those will work great too. Because I'll be adding on some sunflowers, I'm painting my heart with bright yellow acrylic paint. Now that it's dry, I'm placing the gnome on top to find its placement. I then added hot glue to hold it in place. To make this a fall sunflower gnome, I'm adding on a sunflower that has the leaves attached onto the back. I placed a dot of hot glue onto the gnome's hat and attached the flower. To finish up, I'm using 3 small sunflowers complete with stems, and I'm tucking them in between the gnome's arms. And now that I'm done, this cute sunflower gnome is ready for the fall. To make my wood slice sunflower, I'm starting with a recycled frame that measures 9 by 10 and it has the glass included. It still has the clips on the back to hold the glass in place, and I just pressed them down. To make my flower, I'm using 12 of the wooden slices from the Dollar Tree. I'm painting all 12 with my yellow acrylic paint. With the paint dry, I'm attaching the wood slices to the glass using some E6000. I'm placing down my first 6 petals in the shape of a flower. I moved them around a bit, and now happy with their placement, I attached them to the glass using my E6000. I let those set up for about an hour, and now I'm adding on my last 6. I'm placing E6000 on 2 of the petals and then centering one between them. This next step, it's completely optional. I'm using a brown colored pencil and I'm just kind of sketching around the outside edges of the petals. I'm not adding on a ton, just a little, and when I'm done, I'm kind of smudging it in just a bit with my fingers. The brown is a subtle accent, and now I'm using my orange colored pencil and adding a small amount around the inside edges of the petals. Just like the brown, after I add it, I rub it in just a little bit. For the center of my flower, I'm using a wooden knob that I had on hand. If you don't have something like this, you can always use a small wooden disc along with a bead. Attach the two together and it will work great. To match the colors of the center of a sunflower, I'm painting mine with some brown acrylic paint. I want to add some accents to the center of my flower, and I'm using some black acrylic paint. Using the end of my paintbrush, I'm adding some random dots to the top. Attaching it to the flower is super easy. I first place some E6000 around the inside of the petals, then just place it in the center. I'm adding a hanger onto my frame, and I'm using some sunflower ribbon that I had on hand. I cut an 18-inch piece, turned my frame over, and attached the two ends on the back with my E6000. To reinforce the hanger on the back, I'm using 2 wooden craft sticks from the Dollar Tree. I added E6000 onto the ribbons and just a little bit below them, and then attached the craft sticks. I let the glue set up overnight, and now this pretty recycled sunflower is ready to hang. To make my sunflower a candle holder, or you can use it as a vase, I'm starting with a recycled salsa jar. This is so easy to make, you can use just about any size jar for this project. Because I'm working with a sunflower theme, I turned my jar upside down, and outside I'm spraying it with some yellow spray paint. I'm decorating my jar using some of the Dollar Tree farmhouse ribbon, and I'm also attaching it with E6000. I first placed the ribbon around the top of the jar to get my length, and then I cut a second piece of ribbon just a little bit larger. I added some E6000 around the top of my jar and attached the shorter piece of ribbon. To add on the slightly larger ribbon, I'm first adding my E6000 around the center of the jar and once again attaching the ribbon. This DIY is all about sunflowers, but you can always change up the colors, the ribbons, and the flowers and make these for any season. Now that I'm done, I'm using the same ribbon and I'm just making a simple bow. I cut both tails at an angle and added it to the top of my jar using my E6000. I let that dry for about an hour, and now I'm adding on one sunflower with its leaves, and I picked this bunch up at the Dollar Tree. I removed the leaves from the back of the sunflower, then snipped off the little stem. I then used my E6000, attaching the sunflower in the center on the ribbon. I'm adding the leaves behind the sunflower, but I'm first cutting them into 3 separate pieces. You can use your E6000, but my glue gun was handy, and I'm attaching the leaves under the sunflower, and for this project, I recommend that you only use an LED candle. To finish up, I'm adding a little bit of the Dollar Tree white sand into the bottom of my candle holder. I'm using an LED candle. This came from Temu, but you can find similar ones at the Dollar Tree. I turned it on and placed it inside my holder. And with that, this pretty sunflower candle holder is ready for any occasion. Here we are at the end of the video, and I really hope you had fun making these fall sunflower DIYs with me. Be sure to check out my crafty friends. I'll have the fall collab playlist linked below in my description. If you're new to my channel and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. I hope you all have a safe and happy day, and until next time, bye everybody!